Yeah, my name is Brad Haab, and this is my story. Yeah, I grew up playing sports my whole life, had a great family, and then after high school, I moved off to college, and I ultimately started hanging out with the wrong crowd, the wrong people. That's when my poor decision making started. Heroin addiction was something that, even through my partying days, I never even dreamt of. But as time went on, and I dabbled here and I dabbled there with this, that, and the other, then all of a sudden, it got presented to me, and after turning it down, I eventually gave in. It led to robbing, it led to getting robbed, stealing. I could sit here and tell you stories all night long on the destruction that heroin addiction will do to somebody. So that went on for about 2-3 years or so. And then I finally got to a place where I was so far down into the pit of hell that I decided that I needed help. My parents have already told me that they're there when I'm ready for it. So when I was ready, they helped me get into a place, a Christian rehab down in Alabama. So I moved down there in, I believe it was the middle of 2003, went to the Christian rehab facility where it was a rehab, but it was a Bible-based rehab. And it was strictly Bible, healing through the Bible. So I ultimately, in October of 2003, gave my life over to Christ in a small chapel in the middle of this rehab facility. At that point, I was clean, I was sober, I was on fire for God. Everything was great. I ended up staying long-term, about 8 months in that rehab. What I didn't understand at the time was you don't just give your life over to Christ and everything's perfect and He takes care of everything from there. God will stand there and knock at the door, but you got to open it. And so when I quit opening that door, then I found myself falling back into bad places again. After about 4 or 5 years of staying down there, I ended up moving back to Illinois in late 2007. At that time, I also, about 6 months after being back in Illinois, met Ashley. We double dated and started talking, and that was in April of 2008. I ended up getting full custody of Avery at that time, and life still seemed to be really good. Well, after about probably roughly a year, I'll say, I turned back to drugs again. For a little while, I ended up getting arrested in 2010, ended up doing 8 months in prison. What the prison time did for me was it put me back behind the cell, and what I did was I immediately, since I had already given my life to Christ, but I took my own life back, I knew exactly what I needed. So what I did was, right there in my cell, I surrendered everything. I knew that was what I needed. I knew it was God's answer to my situation, and I leaned fully into that. After 8 months, I got out of prison, and shortly after that, everything was going great. We were back attending First Baptist Church. Ultimately, we ended up getting engaged, and we got married in 2012. And then after our wedding in 2012, I believe it was 2013, we took the steps to get baptized together. We wanted to show that God was going to be the center of our relationship, and that God was what made our relationship work. It don't matter if it's something emotional, physical, depression, anxiety, drug addiction. If God can come and pull me out of the pit of hell and set me up on a firm spot in Him, then He can do that for anybody.